Very good. So roll call. I'm going to start with the meeting of August the 5th, 2021. Bill Groves, Commissioner. Bill Groves, Commissioner.
George Methanol, Commissioner.
Greg Melin, Commissioner.
Dave McBride, Commissioner.
Justin Primo, Commissioner. Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
I didn't hear George.
George went first.
Yep, we heard George.
You didn't hear me?
Yep, very good. Just want to make sure. So first up, Lauren, do we have someone on public communications, you said?
We have 7 attendees in public communications right now.
Okay.
So, I'm going to start at the top with Genevieve Surf. If you could state your name and your address.
Hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Genevieve Surf. I live at 6 Pearl Street in Mystic. And I would like to address you on a number of issues. I recall being on a committee like this with Susan years ago, and George and I have talked a lot in the past. So I'd like to state for the record, and I was also town councilor and on the RTM and lots of these commissions. And I was a member of Groton Open Space Association. So I have a foot in each camp. I love this town. I love the open space in this town, but I also know that we need development to maintain our tax base and help pay the taxes. However, I think you folks really need to get input from a few more residents now and then, not just from the vendors. I lived in Long Point most of my life, so I wasn't aware of all the problems in Mystic, but since I've moved to Mystic, suddenly I'm aware of the parking problem. I'm living in an apartment right next to the Harp and Hound, and I know that my neighbor is building a big parking lot across the street. They're thinking of using the church as parking lot. You know, essentially, I get the feeling that the powers that be, i.e. you economic folks, are trying to pave the town over and convert it to all bars and restaurants, which results in the fact that at 2 o'clock in the morning, many times I'm awakened by, 15 police and fire vehicles because it's been a fight in a bar somewhere at 2 o'clock in the morning. And, they're carting people away. One of the things you could look into, for instance, is inviting residents to some of your workshops, not just restaurant owners and not just bar owners and not just vendors, because this whole town, there's no place to go out and even get a newspaper in the morning anymore. It's all restaurants and bars and tourist shops. And the charm of Mystic is absolutely disintegrated. And there's terrible traffic all the time. And now when you talk about the Resper property, which you all were encouraging like crazy at your last meeting, having completely ignored the fact that we have uncovered that this man has a criminal background with really terrible things done with public entities like our town, such as bribery, kickbacks, and lying to public officials, of which he was arrested and charged with these things. And just because he pleaded to misdemeanor doesn't mean that when he tried to cheat a union out of $1.5 million, that we want to do business with somebody like that. If you are really going to be serious economic people, look at the money, look at who we're doing business with. We don't want to do business with crooks. I mean, development is important, but the last thing we want to do business with is a crooked developer. And God knows, especially in New York, there are plenty of them. I lived there for 20 years, and I know from what I speak. So, rather than take this blanket approach, which I saw you do in your last meeting, that any development is good. Any developer who comes in here, we have to kiss their feet and offer them anything like the town just has with these terrible contracts that the town has made with this guy, by the way, because the town offered him absolutely everything. And there's no accountability on the other side for him to what he's supposed to do for us or what we're supposed to do if he turns out to be the bad guy that we really think he is. This could cost us billions of dollars. And I would like to just, as a reference, point to the state pier deal which originally the state told New London that it was only going to cost $50 million, and they're up to $250 million. I don't know who's paid that extra $200 million, but I'll warrant that it's not the wind power company or any of these other people, who wanted to keep their hands clean of the expenses. So, part of the thing with the state here, they want to get rid of this property. Fine. It's a beautiful property. I can think of all kinds of wonderful things we could do with that, including, putting more sports fields for the kids up there. In my mind's eye, I see a great baseball field for the kids, maybe some senior housing, but not 900 units. We don't need 900 units in Mystic. The people in Mystic are going crazy already. Even when I go into restaurants and the bank and things like that, everybody looks at me with looks of complete despair. They say, what is happening to Mystic? It's not the quaint little Mystic, historic town anymore. It's turning into just a giant, tourist garbage can, which, by the way, the tourists are here throw their garbage in my garden all the time. Now, do we have police patrolling the streets? Do we have police giving tickets? Do we have police, we don't even have one policeman, to help us deal with these tourists. So you guys really should take into account all these details. You don't. And I really am begging you, as somebody who's lived here a long time, I've served in public office. I know what all the issues there. I love to go to the restaurants. I like the restaurants, but there has to be a balance in our town. And you can't just go overboard all for development. So I hope you listen to me, and I hope you do invite us in the future to have more input. And we're not a bunch of crackpots, by the way, with the Mystic Oral School advocates. We have fantastic people working. We've done an amazing amount of research. I myself have worked hundreds of hours on it. And if you read the New London Day and the David Collins and the way the editorial in New London Day, they changed their minds about this deal, which I'm sure none of you have done, evidently, because of the way you spoke last month. You will see that most people are now starting to change their tune about this development, which means that the planners did not do the whole job they should have done. They didn't do background checks. They didn't do the math on what it was going to cost us. None of that is in there. And the town attorney didn't do his job, and he didn't write a good contract, because now we're in terrible trouble with this contract. So thanks, but get involved and do your part. We need you people who know business to look at this as the business deal that it is, and find the flaws for us. Make sure that we're safe when we do these deals, and involve the residents, please. This is a great town. We don't want to lose it.
Thank you very much. Just in the interest of time, and I have some commissioners that will be having to leave early, so I need to get through the rest of the agenda. I know we have other people that like to speak, but I'm gonna have to kind of limit it to a minute or so if they're just trying to agree with whatever's being said. I just want it in the interest of time. So Lauren, next one.
Wait, hey, Lauren, real quick. This is Tom Benelli, if you can hear me. I was that number you guys were trying to figure out.
Hey, Tom.
Thank you. I will change your name.
Yeah, I'm here. I emailed you, Lauren, in between because you guys couldn't hear me. So I'm going to mute myself now.
Great,
Okay,
Tom. Thank you much.
All right. We have Janet Mayer. I'm going to unmute her.
Hello?
Janet, go please.
Yes.
Proceed.
Okay. Thank you for letting me speak. Janet Mayer, 88 Avenue, Mystic, Connecticut. I want to address some of the comments made at the last meeting, your meeting. You'll be able to tell I'm a bit upset. I am some of the noise that you referenced at the last meeting regarding the opposition of the Mystic River Bluffs project. But I'm not the only noise. There are many in town who are opposed to this project, way more than the 100 MOSA members. Everyone I've spoken to, neighbors, people at the beach, are opposed to this project. I've only met one person who isn't opposed. And there are still some that aren't even aware of it. So the Great Blue research poll was done that showed 30.7% were strongly opposed to this. An additional 12.2% were also opposed. This was before all the negative came out about it, all the other details. You said that you needed to counter misinformation at the last meeting. Those of us opposed to this development keep hearing that we're misinformed. We're told that there's no plan, just a proposal yet. Ressler has an extensive plan on his site. that we've been referred to. The town council has endorsed the plan development in an editorial, and the town aired a presentation on Respler's plan. He was made preferred development based on his plan. It was through FOI or citizen research that opponents of the development found the following information. You heard about the developer pled guilty bribery, perjury, kickbacks in a federal city and state case. He hasn't done projects that are nearly this size, and he has unfinished projects. The first round of the RFP evaluation was a little weird. I'm going to make it short because I know we're going to run out of time. But only 4 people in the final round gave an overall score. I'd like you to take a look at the breakdown of the percentages. There was not anything in detail with that RFP how this developer was chosen. We know TIF has risks, and there hasn't been any real analysis of the costs of infrastructure, all that kind of thing. Respler's webpage and presentation on the town TV is not in line with the town POCD or original analysis of the redevelopment of the Mystic Education Center report. So it doesn't match up with what our own town is saying. Developers miss deadlines. The agreement appears to allow the purchase of non-contiguous properties, and the terms of the agreement apply. And this is some of the misinformation that we've discovered. I'm passionate about this. I have never put in as much time as I've put in researching this. And that is because there are so many questions. It was stated at our last meeting, your last meeting, it is our job to be proponents of the business and economic development in our town, that you need to be supportive on it. You went on to suggest that the planning and zoning did not want any more people driving or consuming from our businesses. Perhaps the planning and zoning takes responsibility to the citizens, more seriously than simply growing consumers. I want to remind you of your job, and I know you take it seriously, but your job is not only to promote economic resources in town, but it should be consistent with the town's historic character, quality of life, and natural environment. And really, there's so much to look into this. Please, I beg you to look into. I couldn't believe some of the stuff. So thank you for your time. I'll let you go.
Thank you, Janet. Lauren, next, please.
If anyone else wants to speak, you could go ahead and raise your hand. We have Beth Tillman, Roseanne Katowski. Oh, Roseanne raised her hand.
Okay, a couple minutes, Roseanne. Thank you.
First of all, I was told by town staff and Commissioner Dowling that you got to speak for 5 to 7 minutes. The fact that—
excuse me, Roseanne, you know what? I don't want to get this into a back and forth thing. What we do is we allot a certain amount of time for the public comment up front, but we do have a full agenda. So when there are multiple people speaking, I can't allot that same amount to just one. So that's why it was limited.
Okay, Roseanne Katowski, 24 Ann Avenue, RTM District 5. I would like to comment on Mr. Grove's comments from the July 3rd, 2021 EDC meeting, starting at about 18 minutes in the video. I previously sent Mr. Groves an email regarding this issue and have not received a response. For the record, I would like to state that Mr. Groves' comments that the Mystic Oral School mega development developer, quote, better get a better PR guy, was completely inappropriate. I am disgusted with Mr. Groves, the town staff, and I am terribly disappointed with the commissioners. Why? Because what Mr. Groves said is that the developer better get a better PR guy to undermine the town's own planning and zoning commission. Why would Mr. Groves want to undermine the town's own planning and zoning commission? Dismissing and trivializing the concerns of hundreds of Groton residents, as well as the planning and zoning commission, is not how the EDC should be operating. Mr. Groves also stated that we, meaning the EDC, have to do everything we can to support this, referring to the Respler mega development proposal for the Mystic Oral School. This comment is in complete contradiction to his May 6, 2021 email to me that specifically stated that, quote, the EDC has no decision-making authority or involvement in the management or development of the management of the development process. meaning that the EDC is not a government body, but it is an advisory board that cannot make decisions. What did Mr. Groves mean by we have to do everything we can to support this? Was he suggesting that the EDC step out of its advisory role and advocate for the Mystic Oral School mega development proposal? I understand that he is not the spokesperson for the EDC, but not one commissioner corrected him. Was there silence agreement? The professional town staff did nothing to correct the record, knowing that the EDC has no decision-making authority or involvement in the management of the development process. Almost as bad as Mr. Grove's inappropriate comments and the commission's silence is the fact that town staff allowed it to happen in the first place. You can bet that if Chairman Grove said he didn't support the Mystic Oral School mega development, the town staff would immediately jump in and remind the commission that they are advisory only. Unfortunately, this blatant undermining of the Planning and Zoning Commission by the EDC chair and town staff is what we have come to expect. The EDC and the town staff are completely disconnected from reality and the community regarding the Mystic Oral School mega development. Also at the July 3rd meeting, the town staff stated there are only about 100 people in opposition to the project. Whenever, at any time in Groton town history or politics, have 100 residents, voters, and taxpayers been dismissed for anything? Never. FYI, the professional town staff is wrong. There are hundreds, perhaps thousands of Groton residents, taxpayers, and voters in opposition to the Mystic Oral School mega development, and everyone knows it. As I stated to Mr. Groves in my recent email, it looks like Mr. Groves and the EDC are going way beyond advising into advocating. Thank you.
You're muted, Bill.
Did you mute me?
Bill, I think you're muted.
Lauren?
Nope.
Hey, I don't want to cut anyone out that has something else to add to this for the Mystic Bluffs. So if you have something else to add to it, that's great. But I do have the rest of the agenda I have to get forward before some commissioners leave. But I don't want to cut anyone out. So is there anyone on, Lauren, that has their hand raised?
Beth Tillman is asking to speak, so I'm going to allow her to talk.
Beth, that's fine. If you could just kind of make it as quick as possible, just so I can move on.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good afternoon. I reviewed your July 1st meeting video, and I must admit the disappointment is not all on your side. Yes, I am extremely disappointed because in your promotion of the Mr. Wrestler's project, you have ignored the plan of conservation and development. You have ignored the zoning existing on that particular piece of property. You have ignored the 2016 Brownfield Development Grant. You have given us misinformation constantly. You state repeatedly there's no plan, repeatedly no plan. That seems now to be the mantra of many of the people involved in this project. But I suggest that there is most certainly a plan. You are correct. No application has been filed, but there is a plan. It is contained on Mr. Wespler's website. It is contained on the Town of Groton website. It is promoted in a town filmed video. There were others who responded to the RFP for whom the environmental cleanup appeared to create no problems. They would have covered it without huge TIF monies, huge infrastructure costs for such a dense, huge development. The planning specifically states that RU80 and its uses are spelled out, and that is what should be applied to the Mystic Oral School. I especially take umbrage to the suggestion that we in opposition to this plan are just a bunch of noise, just a sort of noise. What absolutely denigrating language to apply to those in the town, citizens taxpayers, people who have taken their time to address this project, to look at this project, to consider this project, to be told we are just a noise that maybe could be ignored. We have a convicted developer, convicted of perjury, convicted of things that smirch all of our reputations if he is the man in charge of this development. He has lawsuits and non-performance in other areas. He is just a lawsuit waiting to happen. And the attorneys have already fired salvos over the bows, indicating that that is where we're going to be heading. You mentioned that the Pratt building was going to be such a cheap and wonderful way to take care of some of the performance and recreation aspects of residents of this town. If you have not gone through the Pratt building and the other buildings at the Mystic Oral School, I can tell you they're a mess. I have gone through with developers and it is absolutely a pit. The state should be required to clean this up. It should not be on the town. It should not be using our TIF money. It should not be something that is happening. It would be cheaper and better, and according to our plans, to situate any such activities near the senior center, the library, the Fitch Middle School, Town Hall area, which has been proposed as the center of the town, and as such should be the area needing more development. This proposal overwhelms the surrounding area. It is in and of itself a small city. And I don't know how many buildings you have seen in town that exceed 4 stories, but 4 stories is a high rise for Groton. It is something that will impact the entire town. It impacts everybody's quiet enjoyment of the area. It will impact all of our taxes to support this project. We will have to pay the attorney's fees as we attempt to defeat it. A PR firm will not make this huge development attractive. You have provided no numbers, no analysis, and no projected impact on the town, and therefore your repeated support for this project is ill-informed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beth, very much. Okay, I have to move on to the agenda, and I appreciate everyone's feedback. We always do like public communications. Good, bad, or indifferent, we're here to listen, so thank you very much. Next up on the agenda, approve the minutes. I hopefully everyone had time to review them. Any additions, corrections, please? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Seconded, McBride.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are accepted.
Aye.
Thank you, George.
Opposed?
Okay, old
Minutes are
business. I'm
accepted.
going to pass this. I'm going to pass
George.
this, the business forum
Okay,
update.
old business. I'm going to pass this, the business forum update. Craig is taking the lead.
We're gonna need George to mute George. You've got the feedback. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you much. So Craig has done a lot of put a lot of time into the
I am
forum,
muted.
working with some partners in the chamber and also Main Street and such like that. And he's really has proceeded well. I know timeframes have changed a little bit in needs, but I'm going to give it over to Craig and let him go through his little presentation. Craig?
I think you're on mute, Craig.
There we go. A lot of what I want to report on is included on page 4 of the report, is the report that I sent. So I don't want to reread or recover that, other than just to say, we do have support from the Chamber of Commerce, from the Downtown Mystic Group, from Ledge Light, to put something together for the restaurants that will help them to make it through a tough environment at the moment. The next step is to put out a survey to restaurants to make sure that we're hitting issues that they think are important, and also to make sure that the time frame works. It was Justin's recommendation to me, and I think it was a wise one, to defer until after Labor Day, as all the restaurants are in high pressure time right now, and probably even losing some summer employees as they go and trying to figure out how to deal with that. Whether the 13th is the right date, I don't know. I just put it forward as a date, and then I learned from Lauren that there may be yet another session connected to Justin in the restaurants earlier that day, and I'm not tied to the date at all. I just want to make sure we're moving forward. Where I'm missing feedback is I put together a very short SurveyMonkey set of questions, which is included as page, must be page 6, page 5 of the minutes. Would appreciate feedback, whether tonight or shortly in the next couple of days, doesn't need to be now, so that we can put out a survey to restaurants and send it out to them. Bruce has been flat out because they've got the Mystic, Bruce Flax of the Chamber has been flat out because they've got the Mystic art event coming up. So I'm not getting much feedback from him at the moment either. So I will need to compare notes with him and see how things are going on his end, as they would be our major partners in this event. So maybe I should just ask what questions people have.
Justin raised his hand. There's a raise your hand button, I learned, but Justin.
I don't know this.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Genevieve, who I believe was our first public speaker today, she mentioned forms like we're going to do for the restaurants in September, that should be open to the general public. And when we first went into lockdown last spring, we had a forum where people could log into the Zoom and just type questions. And then we would address the questions.
Justin, I'm just going to stop. All the forums are open to the public. Nothing that we do is closed, and we don't have closed meetings and such. We advertise them. Whatever Craig's doing will be out just like we do all the time. So it's always inclusive. We don't shut anyone out.
All right, cool.
Thank you, Justin.
Justin, while you're on, is it possible for you to address whether there's something else that's competing at 10 o'clock on the 13th?
I would have to look at my calendar, which I do not have in front of me.
Okay.
That's a Friday?
No, it's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
13th of
September.
You're off. Fine.
Yeah, I'm off on Monday. So even if I have something competing in the morning.
Lauren, maybe you could help us, because I think you're the one that said that Justin might have organized some sort of a session for restaurants on that Monday, because it is a day off for restaurants.
Lauren Ash from Shoreline Menus had said that they were doing, she said the Shorelines and Menus, I think 10 or 10:30 that morning.
Yeah.
And while it might not compete with the afternoon, maybe it's too much for businesses to have 2 meetings.
No problem with moving this off to the 20th or the 27th.
Okay.
Shoot for, my feeling is, let's see where this Delta goes. I think sooner is better than later. Just, you have to wait till after Labor Day. But like you said, a bunch of restaurant owners are not used to doing Zoom meetings. So 2 in one day might be a lot for them.
All right, Craig, what I suggest is let's leave it at the 13th at this point. And if it does turn out, because you are a little bit more flexible on it and we have plenty of lead time to be able to advertise and such like that. So I would leave it at the 13th and have Justin circle back to you and say, okay, this is what the other one going on.
That said, then on page 5 of the minutes today was the survey instrument. I'm not sure if we want to take feedback now, or if people want to give me feedback in the next couple of days. I just want to move it so we can get it out to businesses.
I agree with that also. So Lauren did send a copy of this out, and I would really encourage because Craig has put a lot of time into this, so I think we owe it back to him, is if you have any comments or questions like that, filter it through Lauren. Lauren will do it, get it to all of us and to Craig, just so he knows exactly where he's going on it.
And Craig, I will email you with my thoughts on it.
Great, I appreciate that, Justin.
Time frame, like do it in the next week or so. I mean, I want to work in your time frame too.
Yeah, I'm really not going to get much attention from Bruce Flax until after the 13th. Is that the Mystic?
That's next Friday.
Right. So I won't get much feedback from him until, or access to him until after that.
So asking commissioners if we can get it to you by the 13th, which is next Friday. That's a reasonable time.
I think that works.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments on this as we're moving forward? New issues, as Justin's pointing out, I think George, you must be on.
Craig, I may have a.
I think George, you must be on.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
George,
George.
I can hear you. You have the echo coming from
yes, George.
I can hear you. You have the echo coming from yours.
No, I only got one window open.
Oh. Oh.
Anyway, you can hear me twice. Maybe it is your earplugs. Okay. Craig, listening to our public comments, I was wondering if you may want to, if it's already done, if you talk to Bruce to establish some kind of a public session as well, may be helpful, a forum, if you will, by the Mystic Chamber, so that there is an additional conversation that is coming out from downtown Mystic merchants, in addition to the good people that came up earlier this evening, to share, open forum, all this. I think Bruce should take up this onus on behalf of the city and the town and the municipalities. That's it.
Can you, I need a little bit of.
Now I can't hear you.
Can you? I think I need clarification from you, George, about what you're talking about. Downtown Mystic is already involved as well. So they're happy to participate in this. We've solicited their involvement.
So what I'm suggesting is the Mystic Chamber hosting a forum where people like Jen and Roseanne and Beth and all that, plus store owners of Mystic, also having a opportunity to share their viewpoint on the oral school as well, as one big family.
If this is about the oral school, I think that's a separate.
Now I can't hear you.
About the oral school, I think that's a separate subject from the restaurants and what it takes.
I agree, but since you're talking to Bruce, just to bring up another topic again.
For a future forum, that maybe depending upon where this is going.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're coming in and out, so I don't know whether you're hearing me. I'm getting static from your side, so we are cutting off and on. So whatever time in the future.
All right, any other comments for Craig? All right, any other? All right.
Anything.
Everyone can still hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to move on to the next. You okay now, Craig?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'll work with Bruce best I can, given his availability at the moment. And then I'll look forward to feedback from as many of you as have
feedback from the questionnaire. Perfect. So we're going to move on to the next thing because I know you have to be out in a few minutes anyway. New business we have on there. There are two things. We had future meeting formats. because of the resurgence of the COVID mask mandate, we're gonna kind of put that off to the next meeting, because I assume that it's we thought we were going to be ready to go by September, but I don't want to assure it. So we're going to hold off on going on anything with that. They are still proceeding with the technology that we would need to be able to do those meetings, but we're going to hold off on discussing that further. So I'm going to pass it over to Sam, who has a few things to say on the American Rescue Plan Act.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, really quickly. The town's long-term recovery committee was formed to address needs in response to the pandemic. The committee right now is actually evaluating the town's options regarding the use of relief funds that have been provided and pledged through the American Rescue Act. So we have staff members, including Paige, who meet as part of that committee. And the committee is interested in input from the business community, among the other stakeholder groups that they're reaching out to, regarding potential uses of the funds. This is really early on in the process, and it just really in the discussion phase right now. Their plans to gather that input are expected to include some sort of a forum. But as of their last meeting, which was last night, right now there are no specific plans determined. So we will keep you posted as that develops.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, moving on to the next.
I think Justin had a quick question, Bill.
Oh, sure, please. Yep.
You're on mute, Justin.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, 1 second. Craig, I believe you have to get off at 6:10?
1 second. Craig, I believe you have to get off at 6:10?
Correct. I'm just getting off now.
Okay.
Okay.
Correct. I'm just getting off now.
Okay.
Justin first.
Sam, I was just curious.
Justin first.
Sam, I was just curious.
Thanks. Go ahead.
Justin.
Has the money been allocated to Groton?
Yes, there's just over $8 million pledged. I believe we received half of that, and the remainder we'll receive in the next 12 months.
So is that intended for town use or for small businesses? Intended for town use or for...
So this is the process of trying to allocate the funds as needed townwide in response to the pandemic. There are relief funds. There are certain eligibility requirements. Every town right now is going through that process of determining how to make those expenditures.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
George.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting a lot of problem today's connection and service. Sam, who are the members of this committee?
I don't have that information. I have not been to the meetings.
I don't have that information. I have not been to the meetings. I think it's...
Any way you can mute that, George, so I can answer?
Any way you can mute that, George, so I can answer?
Thanks. Yeah, we can give you that information, but I don't have it in front of me. Thanks. Thanks, Bill. You're on mute.
I have to be on mute. I don't know if it's George's or mine, but I think it's George's now. We know. No offense, George. Okay, I'm going to move over to chair report. I'm just going to, I put in the package the email I received from Roseanne, RTM District 5, because I think everyone should be aware of what's the communication. I'm not responding to it for a simple reason is there's nothing to respond to. I will tell you the truth. I think some of even the information they pulled from our meeting wasn't correct, but I don't care. We've not endorsed anything at this point in time. Everyone keeps on saying we're endorsing something, and I speak for myself that I don't remember ever being part of an endorsement. What our charge is, and it is advisory because we didn't enter into a contract. We didn't select a builder or developer. What we are committed to is to see what is the best for economic development in Groton. So until I see a plan put before, and it is not a plan, it's their ideas or whatever it is, all the different parties have to agree. I don't think the commission is trying to undermine the planning and zoning, commission, but they have their own charge and we have our charge. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that I do welcome the public feedback, but everyone has a different stake in these types of things. And I really think it's best that we have this communication going forward. And anytime I receive these, I will make sure you're all aware of them. If you would like me to respond differently, that's a different conversation. But I just want you to all understand, as I'm not ignoring anything, I just didn't feel there was any response needed on these aspects. I understand exactly where they're all coming from. So that being said, anyone have any comments on how I'm proceeding with this, or anything else that may be recommendations? I'm happy to take them. Justin, you have your hand raised, or?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
I think just for the sake of your own PR and that of the EDC, you should respond and say, we do not take a stand right now. We're merely an advisory board. We do not make any decisions. Just keep it simple, short, but some type of response. I think would be, I think that would be good.
The last thing I'm going to do is worry about my PR. And for the record, that was actually, I think, a statement you made at the last meeting, not myself. But there again, I get it. I mean, it's an emotional issue. I've lived here my entire life. I get it. But there again, I joined the EDC for trying to do the best for the town itself. It's not about just growing our grand list. It's about doing what makes sense. Right now, we know we have a deficit. The report's not out yet. I know it's going to be in at least the low thousands, but we need places for people to live.
Absolutely.
So that's been one of our focuses. And I'll tell you what, I don't think I've conspired with anyone, but I know that the staff's focus has been trying to convert some of these schools, and they've been doing a great job with it. And this is just another little aspect that was the Mystic Bluffs. So they're all different pieces. And I'm sure as a town, we can come together and come up with a resolution, but our job is our job. So everyone feels differently about what we've been doing, but I know exactly where we've stood as a commission. So I'm okay with that. That being said, to keep moving forward, liaison reports. Now I'm going to start out with Aaron because I didn't see him on the screen last month, but Aaron, would you like to add anything to the report you provided?
Thank you so much. I did submit my report. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, can.
So I think the only thing I'll highlight on the bottom of page 2, we are sponsoring a Greater Mystic Chamber event on Sunday, September 12th. So we're sponsoring the Groton City Brew Run. I think it's going to be a really fun event. Definitely wanted to recommend that to both individuals and families. You can come get some exercise, run a run or walk a 5K-ish. I don't think it's exactly a 5K. Enjoy some responsive sampling of different brews and free entertainment with live music. So just a great event and looking forward to it.
Any questions for Aaron? Okay. Now this is a nice, because we remember when we had Adam on our board with the as the liaison for the Navy. Well, I'd like to welcome Stephen. He will be our new liaison for the Naval Sub Base. We had a couple words before the meeting started. He does have a planning background and such, so I'm always welcome to others' expertise. So Stephen, please.
Well, thank you. I know you're running short here on your meeting, so I won't I won't go over everything that I've already provided in writing. But I am happy to be here and glad to take part. And I'm certainly here if any of you have any questions or comments about things that are going on the base or how we can work together better. please do not hesitate to contact me. My contact information is there on the bottom of the page. You know, you can email me or what have you. The only thing that I didn't put on my report, which I forgot to put on there, was if you've gone by on the river, you might have noticed a lot of construction up around the north end of the base. That's our new Pier 32 project, which is I think it's $67 million project, putting in a whole new pier, and the one just to the south of it is the old Pier 32, which is going to be removed. We're kind of excited about that. We're trying to keep our piers all up to the standards they need to be to serve our new sub. So that's exciting. We've got some plans to do a couple more here in the upcoming years to expand and or redo. So it's exciting. Lots of exciting stuff happening here on the base. I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything about things that are going on or about my report.
I do.
Justin does.
Stephen.
Yeah.
Pier 67. How long is that project going to take?
Pier 32.
32.
Yeah, it's. I think it's like a 2-year project, and it's probably about halfway through, 2 to 3 year project. They've got all the pilings in, or a lot of the pilings in. They're starting to do some steel work, but still a lot of work left to do on it. So I think they'll be working on it at least another year, maybe a little longer.
How many civilian contractors are there?
There's one. They hired one large firm to do the project
out of Jersey, right?
Yeah. I couldn't tell you how many people are working there. I don't know those numbers. There's quite a few, plus a bunch of.
No, it's good because they come to my restaurant.
Well, there you go. That's good. We have a lot of contractors working on the base, as you know. Between that project and what's going on, you know, all the EB projects and the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard projects. There's a lot of boat maintenance that happens in our dry docks and stuff. So we have a lot of civilians and contractors that work down there on lower base, and you can tell if you ever go down there, there's like no place to park half the time during the day. So that's a good thing for your local businesses.
Yes, it is. It definitely
I don't
is.
see that stopping anytime soon. So,
all right, thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Any other questions for Stephen? Hearing none. Stephen, welcome again. We look forward to working with you, and I'm sure we'll have a very productive future relationship. We just got to keep you a long time. That's all. We don't like change.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, no problem. I'm going to sign out here, I think. I got a couple of things I want to get done, but...
very good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stephen.
We'll catch you next month. Take care.
Jill, would you like to report on RTM?
Jill actually had to step away to take care of...
How about you, Jason, report on Groton City?
Certainly. The only thing I have to add is, I don't want to take any time, but we are celebrating Groton City Day. After the 2020 hiatus, we're going to celebrate that tomorrow from 5 to 9 p.m. And Economic Development will have a booth where we'll be highlighting some of the projects that are ongoing in the city, and be taking some man on the street kind of feedback and soliciting interest in the pedestrian and bicycle project that's ongoing. Determine the needs and future projects for pedestrian and bicycle routes. And Sierra Patrick, Leslie Crane, I think they'll all be on hand to answer questions. And I think we'll be casting out the net and trolling for potential commissioners for the Economic Development Commission in the city. So
very good, Jason. I have I have a person that relocated to Groton City, so maybe I'll refer them.
Fantastic. Send them our way.
Will do. Any questions for Jason? Thank you very much, sir. And last item on our agenda, any other business to come before the commission?
Bill, if you don't mind.
Yes, Sam, please.
I don't mind you hopping over staff report, usually Paige.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sam. I got right into the liaisons.
Not at all. And I only wanted to highlight a couple quick.
Go right ahead. I'm sorry. My bad.
So one, bluetechgroton.com is our targeted industry-specific microsite. We continue to promote this to raise awareness about the marine technology industry sector and the ecosystem in the region centered in Groton. We published another article on LinkedIn. It was actually an interview with the executive director of the Naval and Maritime Consortium, Walker Potts. And anytime you can click through that link that's in the PDF, comment, share, forward to your network, we appreciate it. Also, Thames River Innovation Place, or TRIP, is now actively soliciting blue tech related projects to fund in an effort to grow the ecosystem locally. And the only other thing I wanted to mention was Triton Square. The developers have submitted a site plan seeking approval, and that would put construction, would still be on track, expected to still be on track to begin this calendar year. That's all. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Sam. Sorry about that also, but any questions for Sam?
It's George.
Please.
Go
ahead, George.
Sam, could you please ask both NMC and TRIP individually or separately to schedule time to present to the EDC what the CT Next proposal and what it all entails, so that the wider audience of Groton are equally aware that such a proposal is being sought, so that I can expect a better mileage from now I'm putting on my CT Next board hat, so I can expect a better mileage from their presentation for the Groton and New London public.
As far as them having them as an agenda item, I think we're open to that. And Paige is in regular contact with folks from both of those organizations. So yeah, it's something we can dig into.
Thank you. If they could do it next month, will be better because of time frame and cutting off. And no point telling somebody such an opportunity to get funding is available 7 days before it gets cut off. It does not serve anybody any purpose.
Well, I can't make any guarantees as far as getting something on next month's agenda with everybody's schedule and the short notice, but I do agree that continuing to raise awareness of those two organizations and their role locally is a good thing. Thanks, George.
Thank you, George. And Sam, just if you get it, we'll talk about it before when we're planning our agenda. If we do it, can get it next month, great. If not, we'll do it on a follow-up. We'll make sure it's addressed.
Sounds good. Thanks, Bill.
Any other questions for Sam? Did Jill come back, Jason, or just not so I'm leaving her out?
No,
She's still gone. Okay.
She's not available.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure I didn't cut her out. Okay, moving on. Any other business to come before the commission tonight? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I didn't have the first. Who? Someone make the motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion, Tom Benelli.
Thank you, Tom. And Justin seconded.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, guys.